Hello and welcome to today's podcast, everyone. My name is Lorena and I'm joined here today with Miroslava.
Hi, everyone.
So the topic of today's discussion is going to be centered on our personal analysis of John Green's novel, The Fault in Our Stars. So to kick things off and dive right into things, I want to start by talking about the aspects that captivated me the most when reading this novel. And personally, I think for me, it definitely had to be the level of imagery that you get from the dialogue of each character. Like, for instance, there's a line during their trip to Amsterdam. I want to say it's in chapter 13 or 14, where Augustus confesses to Hazel that his cancer returned and has obviously spread all throughout his body. And when he's explaining the PET scan to her, he says this line, "I lit up like a Christmas tree, Hazel Grace." And I remember when I was reading this, I was thinking, man, in my opinion, they used this simile in this line, and it gave a really impactful result. Because as you're sitting there reading, you can almost imagine yourself sitting in the doctor's office and hearing and seeing the heartbreaking results of this poor kid's PT scan. And for me, it was instances like this all throughout the book that kept me glued to the edge of my seat reading. Was there anything that captivated you about this book, Miroslava?
I have to agree with that same kind of scene, actually. And I remember even when watching the movie based on this book, I want to say he even, teared up, right? When he was talking to her.
Yeah.
So, remembering that from the movie, but also while reading the book, it's kind of very impactful, yeah, and it totally evokes emotion. So yeah, it was.
Yeah,
definitely...
all throughout this book, it's just, it had me crying. It was insane. But now I would want to transition on to conversating about the dislikes of this book, because as I was reading through the online comments the other day, just to kind of get a take of what people were saying about the book, I was really surprised to see a handful of comments with people saying that they dislike some aspects of the book because the characters, I guess, didn't seem relatable enough. But in my opinion, I don't agree with this at all, because I felt that John Green did a really good job of mimicking the mindset and behavior of each adolescent. In other words, I felt that throughout the storyline, I was able to step into each character's shoes for brief moments. Because although Hazel and Augustus are ill and obviously suffering from cancer, a lot of people obviously can't relate to them in that sense. But as they're handling these issues and these certain issues and situations, they're handling them with humor and sarcasm, which is something that I think a lot of teenagers do.
Sure.
But I don't know, what do you think, Mito? What was something that you disliked about this book, or maybe that you thought would have been better if it would have changed? Or
I can see where the people would
relate to the characters,
where they would relate, and then also where they couldn't relate, because in the sense that they have cancer. Okay, right. Not everyone goes through that, but also kind of the happenings with them having cancer. So, for example, Augustus gets kind of like a Make-A-Wish kind of a thing, right? So
yes.
They go to Amsterdam. So I think with the traveling aspect, maybe, people couldn't relate to that. But I can see the relatability in the sense that Augustus is kind of like this rebellious character.
Yes.
Where he is smoking cigarettes even though he already has cancer, and it's kind of okay. So I think I see both aspects, so I can agree and disagree with the relatability aspect.
Okay, so now I want to move on to talking about a little bit about the ending of the book. Now, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, Mito, but I really like the ending of the book. Obviously, I thought it was really sad because everyone is obviously rooting for Hazel and Augustus to get their happily ever after. But in my opinion, I felt that having Augustus die in the end really opened Hazel's eyes to the realization that you can't always expect to find all the answers in this book, because, you know, throughout the book, she's obviously looking for answers in the book. She's constantly reading, which is why they even go to Amsterdam. But I guess when he dies, she kind of, like I said, goes to this realization. So in the end, when she has the opportunity to read the eulogy that Augustus writes for her, it's clear that she finally gains that peace, I guess, that she's been looking for throughout the whole novel. And she also, I feel like, accepts her fate. And in my opinion, I think that the final line in the book really creates a more meaningful ending to the book. But, I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think, Miroslava, about the ending?
I also like the ending. I like the fact that it is a young adult novel, and it kind of sets up a different kind of feel for young adult novels, in the sense that it doesn't end happily, and it kind of emphasizes like this kind of harsh reality, right, that, you know, even though they were obviously, you know, in love, they don't end up with each other. And worse than that is Augustus dies. So, you know, that's pretty sad. But I think it's good that it does kind of wrap everything up, in the sense that it allows, his death kind of allows Hazel to come to like a final realization, right, you know, of that she should keep living, and that even though he's dead, you know, her life has to continue, because at the beginning of the book she kind of was like over life, in the sense of like, she didn't want to be sick and she kind of wanted to die. So I think it's a good ending where she kind of finds herself, in the sense of even though Augustus is gone now, she kind of is set to where she wants to keep living, and she kind of has found the purpose of wanting to keep living.
Yeah, I feel like I couldn't agree with you more on that. Like I said, the realization and the transition of mindset that she gains from the beginning to the end of the book is amazing. And I feel that although it is sad, at the same time it's very optimistic, because you know, she gains this new perspective on life. And I think that brings us to the end of the podcast. Miroslava, I enjoyed hearing your thoughts and analysis on The Fault in Our Stars. And thank you for being here. And thank you to everyone for listening.